The Galactic Council chamber was packed. Every seat was filled and more beings stood along the walls. This was an emergency session, called within hours of the Krell incident. The air was tense, electric with fear and anger. Daehyun sat in the human delegation section with Jiwoo and Mirai. Behind them sat Hyunwoo, Salman and her crew, even Youngsu and Yoonji. Every human on Station Kepler 442 had been called to attend. High Chancellor Vross called the session to order. His insectoid features were unreadable, but his voice was grave. We are here to address what the other species are calling the human question. In the past week, we have witnessed 2 incidents that have shaken the foundations of our council. We must decide how to proceed. Councillor Vex stood immediately. The answer is clear. Humans are too dangerous to remain integrated with peaceful species. I propose immediate restrictions. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Daehyun felt Jiwoo tense beside him. Vex continued, his voice rising. Let us review the evidence. Humans are predators who have barely evolved past their violent nature. Their biology is designed for hunting and killing. Their culture glorifies violence. They even create entertainment based on combat and warfare. He activated a holographic display. Images filled the air. Human boxing matches, mixed martial arts, historical battle footage, action movies with explosions and gunfights, horror films with monsters and blood. This is what humans watch for fun, Vex declared. Violence is entertainment. What peaceful species does this? More murmurs, more fearful glances toward the human section. And their history, Vex went on. Thousands of years of warfare, genocide, weapons of mass destruction. They nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. These are facts, Ambassador Krex stood. Daehyun was surprised to see him. After their confrontation, he expected Krex to avoid humans entirely. I supported Councillor Vex's position, Krex said. After my encounter with the human diplomat, I believed humans were too volatile, too dangerous. But I have been reviewing our own history, the Vortan history. He pulled up images of his own species, ancient footage of Vortan warfare. Cities burning, weapons that made human technology look primitive. We did the same, Krex said quietly. Worse, perhaps. We fought civil wars that lasted centuries. We developed weapons that could crack planets. We committed atrocities that still haunt our cultural memory. But we evolved past it. We chose peace. We forgot what we were. He turned to face Daehyun directly. When I threatened your crew member, you became what we used to be. And it terrified me because I had forgotten that feeling. The readiness for violence. The willingness to die protecting your pack. We bred it out of ourselves so long ago that encountering it again was like facing a ghost. Chancellor Thex stood. May I speak? Frost nodded. I have studied humanity extensively, Thex began, and Councillor Vex is correct about many things. Humans are predators. They do have violent tendencies. Their history is bloody, but he misses the crucial point. Thex walked to the center of the chamber. Humans are the only species in this room who still have to choose peace. Every single day. Every human carries the capacity for violence in their genes, and every human decides not to use it. They teach their children not to hit, not to hurt, not to take what they want by force, because they still feel those urges. He pulled up different images. Human children being taught to share, humans helping other species, human aid workers on disaster worlds, human doctors treating alien patients. They are predators who chose to become caregivers, hunters who decided to be healers, warriors who selected peace, not because it is easy for them, but because it is right. Daehyun felt something shift in the room. The fear was still there, but something else was emerging. Understanding perhaps Vex wasn't finished. Beautiful words, Chancellor. But what about the Krell incident? 12 humans defeated armed Krell soldiers. Humans who fought without mercy, without hesitation. Is this the peaceful species you describe? This time someone stood. She walked to the center of the chamber and every eye followed her. The cuts on her face had been treated, but the scars remained. You're right, she said. We fought without mercy. We hurt people, and I would do it again. Gasps echoed through the chamber. They kidnapped us, Soman continued. They threatened to enslave us, to kill us. They took our medic away to experiment on her. What would your species do in that situation? She looked around the room. Most of you would have submitted, waited for rescue, hoped for mercy. But humans don't wait to be saved. We save ourselves. That's how we survived on Earth. That's how we survived in space. And that's how we survived the Krell. You could have killed them, Vex said. You had the opportunity. We could have. We chose not to. Soman's voice was firm. That's the difference. We had the capacity for lethal force and we still chose restraint. Even while fighting for our lives, we pulled our punches. We disabled, we didn't destroy. Daehyun stood. It was time. He walked to join Soman in the center. May I address the council? He asked. Ross gestured his approval. Daehyun looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of species. You're all afraid of us. I understand that now. We remind you of what you used to be and you worked hard to forget that past. But let me tell you what I see when I look at this council. He pointed to the Vortan section. I see a species that conquered 14 systems through military force. You killed billions before you found peace. He pointed to the Thexians. I see a species that fought a 3-century civil war. Your own population was reduced by 70% before you stopped. He pointed to the Pelians. I see a species that practiced ritual combat to the death for leadership. You only stopped 2,000 years ago. Species after species, Daehyun pointed out their violent pasts. Not to shame them, but to make a point. Every species here has blood in their history, he said. Every single one. You all did terrible things before you evolved past it. But you did evolve. You changed. You became better. And now you've forgotten what it cost. He took a breath. Humans remember. We look at our history and we feel shame. We teach our children about our wars so they won't repeat them. We carry the weight of what we were because it reminds us to be better. You ask why we watch violence in our entertainment? Because we're still learning to channel those instincts safely. You ask why we have so many rules about not hurting others? Because we still feel the urge and we need the reminder. His voice grew stronger. You say we're predators. You're right. But we're predators who chose to become something else. Not because it's in our nature, but because it's our choice. And choice is everything. Pretty speech, Vex said. But choice is fragile. What happens when humans choose violence? Then we would be like everyone else in this room once was. Daehyun replied. The difference is we know that about ourselves. We're not pretending we're something we're not. We're not hiding from our nature. We're controlling it. Krek stood again. I formally withdraw my support for restrictions on humans. Instead, I propose recognition of their unique position. Explain, Vross said. Humans understand violence in a way we no longer do. They remember what it means to be both predator and prey. This makes them valuable, not dangerous. Krex pulled up a star chart. Our borders are peaceful because everyone has forgotten how to truly fight. But there are threats in the galaxy. Pirates. Hostile species beyond our borders. When diplomacy fails, we have no answer because we've forgotten warfare. He looked at Daehyun. Humans haven't forgotten. They could be our answer. Our last resort when all peaceful options fail. You want to make them warriors? Vex hissed. No, Krex replied. I want to make them peacekeepers. Because they understand the cost of war better than any of us. Chancellor Thex nodded. I second this proposal. But with additions. Humans should also lead our conflict resolution teams. They should teach diplomacy and de-escalation, not because they're peaceful by nature, but because they work so hard to be peaceful. They can teach others what they've learned. The debate continued for hours, proposals and counter-proposals, arguments and rebuttals. But slowly a consensus formed. Finally, Vross called for a vote. The proposal is this. Humans will be granted full council membership without restrictions. In exchange, they will serve in two capacities. First, as military advisors and peacekeepers for situations requiring defensive force. Second, as diplomats and counselors for conflict resolution. All in favor? Hands, claws, tentacles, and wings rose across the chamber. Not everyone voted yes. Vex and his supporters abstained. But the majority was clear. The motion passes, Vross announced. Daehyun felt Jiwoo's hand on his shoulder. Mirai was smiling. Around them, the other humans looked stunned. They had been accepted. Not despite their nature, but because of it. Later that evening, Daehyun, Jiwoo, and Mirai sat in Youngsu's cafe. The owner had insisted on celebrating, offering free food and drinks. A few aliens had even joined them, tentatively at first, then more comfortably. A young Thexian approached their table. Her feathers were smooth, a sign she wasn't afraid. Excuse me, she said. I heard something about humans. That you can befriend anything. Is it true? Jiwoo laughed. It was a warm sound full of genuine joy. Well, we try. We bonded with wolves tens of thousands of years ago and turned them into... The lights in Day One's cell brightened steadily, simulating a sunrise that meant nothing in space. He had been awake for an hour already, doing slow exercises in the limited space, push-ups, squats, stretches. His body needed to stay ready. The force field deactivated with a soft chime. 3 guards entered, weapons ready. Behind them came Overseer Thalrin and another figure, smaller and more delicate. This one had pale blue skin and 4 arms, each holding a different scanning device. "This is researcher Ven Ara," Thalrin said. "She will be conducting some examinations. Please cooperate." Daewon stood slowly, making no sudden movements. He watched Venera approach with her scanners. Her large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of nervousness in her species. The guards shifted their weight from foot to foot, ready to bolt. "Fascinating," Venera whispered, studying her scanner readings. "Your heart rate is remarkably slow, only 60 beats per minute at rest. Most species operate at 90 or above. Efficient cardiovascular system," Daewon said simply. Venara moved around him, scanning from different angles. "Your eyes," she said. They faced forward, both pointing the same direction. "Why?" "Depth perception," Daewon replied. "Binocular vision. It helps with judging distances accurately." "But you sacrifice peripheral vision," Venara said, confused. "How do you detect threats from the sides?" Daewon turned his head, demonstrating. "We turn our heads. We scan our environment constantly." Thalrin stepped closer, his golden eyes thoughtful. "Most species have eyes on the sides of their heads. Wider field of view. Better for detecting danger. Most prey species," Daewon said quietly. The room went silent. The guards tensed. Venara stopped scanning. Thalrin's scales rippled, a sign of discomfort. "What do you mean?" the overseer asked. Daewon met his gaze. "Forward-facing eyes are for hunting, for tracking prey, for judging the exact distance before you strike. Prey animals have eyes on the sides to watch for predators. You have side-facing eyes, overseer." "All of you do." Thalrin's expression shifted. Understanding dawned slowly, and with it something that looked like fear. "You are saying humans are predators." "We evolved as hunters," Daewon confirmed. "Persistence hunters. We would chase prey for hours, days sometimes, until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we would strike." Venara's scanners trembled in her hands. "The endurance capabilities we detected. Your ability to regulate body temperature through sweating. The slow, efficient heartbeat. These are hunting adaptations." "Yes." One of the guards made a sound, something between a whimper and a hiss. The others backed toward the door. Only Thalrin held his ground, though his scales continued to ripple. "The Council has never encountered a true predator species before," the overseer said slowly. "Our coalition consists of herbivores, scavengers, and filter feeders. We achieve civilization through cooperation, through avoiding conflict. We achieved it through hunting," Daewon said. "Through planning, teamwork, and tools. We learned to think strategically because our prey was fast and we were not. We learned to work together because large prey required many hunters. We learned to make weapons because our teeth and claws were not enough." Venara was typing frantically on her datapad. "This explains the reports. Human ships coordinate with frightening efficiency. Human negotiations are strategic, always planning several steps ahead. Human colonies adapt to any environment. These are all hunting behaviors." Thalrin raised a hand, silencing her. He looked at Daewon with new eyes, seeing him differently now. "If you are predators, why have you not attacked us? The Council controls hundreds of worlds. Human space is small in comparison." "Because we choose not to," Daewon said. "Being a predator does not mean being mindless. We can control our instincts. We can choose cooperation over conflict. But make no mistake, overseer, we are still predators." The guards fled. Daewon heard their footsteps echoing down the corridor, running despite their training. Venara followed more slowly, clutching her scanners. Only Thalrin remained, studying the human before him. "You are here for a reason," the overseer said quietly. "You are teaching us something." "I am showing you what you captured," Daewon replied. "You thought I was just another intelligent species. Another curious explorer, but you brought a predator into your station, put it in a cage, and now you are studying it like a zoo animal." Thalrin's scales went still. "What are you planning?" Daewon smiled, and this time it was not gentle. "I am planning to survive. I am planning to escape, and I am planning to find my engineer. Her name is Ji-Wan. You took her too, did you not?" The overseer hesitated, then nodded. "She is in another section, separated for security reasons." "Then I have 2 goals now," Daewon said. "You should not have given me motivation, overseer." Thalrin activated his communicator. Increase security protocols. Double the guards. Watch the human constantly. But as he left, Daewon saw the fear in the overseer's movements. The knowledge had changed things. The council now understood what they were dealing with, but understanding came with terror. Over the next days, they studied him extensively. They measured his strength and found it greater than expected. They tested his endurance and watched him run on a treadmill for 4 hours without stopping. They examined his teeth and found both flat, molars for plants and sharp canines for meat. Omnivore, adaptable, able to survive on almost anything. They tested his vision in darkness and discovered he could see better than most council. Species in low light, not as well as true nocturnal hunters, but enough. Enough to move through shadows while prey stumbled blind. Venara presented her findings to the council leadership. Daewon heard about it from the guards who gossiped outside his cell, not knowing he could understand their language better than they thought. The human is a Category 5 predator, Venara had reported, apex level on his homeworld. No natural predators of his own. Humans eliminated competing predators thousands of years ago. They domesticated some animals and hunted others to extinction. They reshaped their entire planet's ecosystem. The council was frightened. Good. Fear made people careless. Daewon used the examination sessions to map the facility. When they took him to the medical bay, he memorized the route. When they brought him to the testing center, he counted doors and noted camera positions. When they allowed him supervised exercise in a larger room, he studied the ventilation grates. Everything he learned, he filed away. Every routine he observed became data. The guards changed shifts every 8 hours. The cameras had blind spots in the corners. The ventilation system was designed for smaller species, but a human could fit inside. The station ran on a day-night cycle, and during night hours the lights dimmed to save power. During one examination, Venara asked him about human culture. He told her about persistence, about how humans never gave up, about how they solve problems not with strength but with patience and planning. "We hunted animals that could run faster than us," he said, "so we learned to track. We followed footprints, broken branches, scent trails. We pursued for days if needed. The prey would run, rest, run again, but we never stopped. We just kept coming. Eventually the prey would be too exhausted to run anymore." Venara's forearms trembled. "You are describing pursuit predation, the most terrifying hunting strategy in nature." "Yes," Daewon agreed, "and we applied it to everything. Every problem. Every obstacle. We just keep trying, keep adapting until we succeed." That night the guards doubled again. Warden Kress visited his cell, studying him through the force field. "You think you are frightening us," the warden said. "You think we will make mistakes because we fear you." "I do not need to think it," Daewon replied. "I can see it happening." Kreese's insectoid features were hard to read, but its posture showed anger. "You are one being, alone, in a station with 3,000 personnel and advanced security systems. You are not escaping." Daewon looked at the warden for a long moment. Then he spoke softly, almost gently. "Warden, has anyone ever told you about the uncanny valley?" "What?" "It is a human concept. When something looks almost human but not quite, it creates deep discomfort. Fear. Your species has never felt it because you have never encountered predators, but now you are feeling something similar. You look at me and see an intelligent being, someone like you, but your instincts buried deep in your genes recognize something else, a predator, and that conflict creates terror." Kreese backed away from the force field. "You are trying to manipulate us psychologically." "I am simply explaining what you are already feeling," Daewon said. "But here is something else to consider. Jiwan, my engineer, is human too, and if she is anything like me, she is also planning. You did not capture 2 prisoners, Warden. You invited 2 predators into your home." The warden left quickly, its footsteps rapid against the metal floor. Daewon watched it go, then returned to his bench. He closed his eyes, but he was not resting. He was counting. Counting seconds, minutes, hours, measuring time until the night cycle. Calculating guard rotations. Planning his escape route. The hunt was approaching its next phase. The lights dimmed for the night cycle. Daewon had been counting down to this moment for 3 days. Every examination, every conversation, every second of observation had been preparation. Now it was time. He lay on his bench, breathing slowly and deeply. The guards outside his cell relaxed slightly. They had grown accustomed to him resting during night hours. Routine made them comfortable. Comfort made them careless. 2 guards tonight, down from the usual 4 during day shifts. They stood at their posts talking quietly. Their conversation was about food, about their families, about normal things. They no longer watched him with the same intensity as before. 3 days of peaceful behavior had dulled their fear. Daewon waited. Patience was a hunter's greatest weapon. At the shift's halfway point, 1 guard left to use the facilities. This happened every night at the same time. Routine. The remaining guard yawned, leaning against the wall. It checked its datapad. Bored, Daewon moved. He had been working on the food tray for 2 days. Each meal he had bent the thin metal slightly, working it back and forth until metal fatigue weakened it. During his last meal, he had finally broken off a piece, hiding it under his sleeping mat. The fragment was small, barely the length of his finger, but the edge was sharp. The force field had a control panel. The guards accessed it from outside, but there was an emergency release inside for safety. It was positioned high on the wall, meant to be unreachable from the bench. The designers had not accounted for human height and jumping ability. Daewon stood on the bench. He reached up, steadying himself against the smooth wall. The panel was still 30 centimeters too high. He bent his knees, then jumped. His fingers caught the edge of the panel. He hung there for a moment, then pulled himself up with core strength that would have been impossible for most council species. The panel's cover came off easily. Inside were simple circuits, color-coded for easy emergency access. The metal shard slipped between 2 circuits, creating a short. Sparks flashed. The force field flickered and died. The guard looked up from its datapad. Its eyes widened. It reached for the alarm. Daewon was already moving. He crossed the cell in 3 strides, diving through the deactivated force field. The guard's hand touched the alarm button just as Daewon's shoulder hit its midsection. They crashed to the floor together. The guard was stronger than it looked, but it fought like prey. Wild, panicked movements. No strategy. Daewon controlled the struggle easily, using the guard's own momentum against it. Within seconds, he had the guard in a hold that restricted movement without causing injury. Sleep, he whispered, applying pressure to the nerve cluster at the guard's neck. It went limp. Daewon took the guard's access card and weapon. The weapon was unfamiliar, but the design was simple enough. Point and trigger. He checked the corridor. Empty. The other guard had not returned yet. He moved quickly but quietly down the hallway. His memory of the station's layout was perfect. Every route he had been taken, every turn, every door was stored in his mind. Humans were excellent at spatial memory. Another hunting adaptation. Track your prey through unfamiliar territory and still find your way home. The ventilation grate was where he remembered it. In an alcove, partially hidden by a maintenance panel. He pried it open with the metal shard. The opening was small, but he squeezed through. The council species were smaller than humans on average. They did not design their infrastructure for larger bodies. Inside the vent, Daewon crawled forward. The metal was cold against his hands and knees. Darkness surrounded him, but his eyes adjusted quickly. He could see the faint glow of indicator lights through grates below, enough to navigate by. Behind him, he heard alarms begin to sound. They had discovered his escape. Good. Let them panic. Panic caused mistakes. He crawled through the ventilation system for 20 minutes, following the map in his head. He needed to reach the communication center first. Earth needed to know about this situation. Then he would find Jiwon. Voices echoed through the vents. Guards running past below. Search parties forming. Daewon stayed still when they were close, moved when they were far. He was the hunter now, and they were the prey that did not know it was being stalked. The communication center was in the station's central ring. Daewon found a grate overlooking it. 3 technicians inside working at their consoles. No guards. They had all been sent to search the detention levels. He studied the room's layout. The main console was on the left. The door was on the right. If he dropped from the vent, he would land near the center. 3 seconds to reach the console. Maybe 10 seconds to send a message before they could stop him. Daewon opened the grate slowly, silently. He hung from the opening, then dropped. The technicians screamed. 1 fled immediately. The other 2 froze. Prey instinct overwhelming rational thought. Daewon ignored them, focusing on the console. His fingers flew across the controls. The interface was different from human systems, but not incomprehensible. He found the long-range transmission protocols. entered the emergency frequency that all human vessels monitored. His message was brief. Morningstar to any human vessel. Captured by Council. Station Nexus, coordinates following. Hostile interrogation. G1 also captured. Request immediate assistance, Day 1. He attached the coordinates and transmitted. The message would take hours to reach human space, but it would get there. Help was coming. The remaining technicians had backed against the wall. One was speaking frantically into a communicator, calling for guards. Day 1 looked at them and they went silent. "I am not here to hurt you," he said calmly. "I just needed to send a message." He left through the door, moving quickly down the corridor. Guards would arrive soon. He needed to be gone before then. Finding G1's location was harder. The detention level had multiple sections and he did not know which one held her. But the station had information terminals throughout its corridors. Day 1 found one and accessed it with the guard's stolen credentials. The system asked for authorization. He tried several approaches, then smiled. The council was bureaucratic. They documented everything. He searched for recent prisoner intake records. There, G1's name, along with the detention block number. Section 7, Cell 42. Halfway across the station. Alarms wailed throughout the structure now. Lights flashed red. Lockdown protocols were initiating. Day 1 could hear bulkhead doors sealing in the distance. They were trying to trap him, divide the station into sections so he could not move freely. He ran. Human endurance was his advantage now. The guards would tire quickly, their prey species bodies not built for sustained pursuit. But Day 1 could run for hours if needed. He vaulted over a closing bulkhead door, sliding under it with centimeters to spare. Guards appeared at the end of the corridor. They raised weapons, but Day 1 was already gone, ducking into a side passage. The station was a maze, but he never lost direction. Another human trait. Internal compass. Sense of direction that bordered on instinct. He could always feel where he needed to go. Section 7 was in lockdown. The bulkhead doors were sealed and guards stationed at every entrance. Day 1 studied the positions from a distance. Direct approach was impossible. But there was always another way. He found a maintenance shaft. These ran parallel to the main corridors used by repair crews. The entrance was locked, but the stolen access card worked. He slipped inside. The shaft was dark and cramped. Day 1 crawled through it, using touch as much as sight. His fingers found pipes, wires, structural supports. He built a mental map as he moved, understanding the station's skeleton. Voices filtered through the walls. Warden Kress was coordinating the search. The human cannot hide forever. Seal every exit. Check every room. It is still just one being against 3,000. Day 1 smiled in the darkness. The warden still did not understand. Numbers did not matter when the hunter chose the battlefield. He emerged from the maintenance shaft in Section 7, behind the guard lines. They were all facing outward, watching for him to approach from the main corridors. No one thought to look behind them. Cell 42 was easy to find. Through a window, he saw G1 sitting calmly on her bench. She looked unhurt, just bored. When she saw him at the window, her eyes widened with recognition, then narrowed with understanding. Day 1 used the access card on the door. It worked. The council had not thought to restrict the card's access to different sections. Another mistake. G1 stood as he entered. "Took you long enough," she said quietly. "I had to send a message first," Day 1 replied. "Help is coming." "Good. Because I was getting tired of waiting." G1 held up a small device she had been hiding. "I have been working on hacking their security system. Another few hours and I would have been out anyway." Day 1 laughed softly. Of course she had. Engineers were problem solvers. Give them any challenge and they would find a solution. "We need to move," he said. "This station is on full alert. But I know the way to the hangar. We can steal a ship." G1 nodded. "Lead the way." They moved through the corridors together. Two humans working in perfect coordination. When guards appeared ahead, Day 1 went left and G1 went right, flanking them before they could react. The guards fled before they even came close. The prey species of the council had never evolved to deal with cooperative predators. They had no instinct for it, no understanding of pack tactics. 50 guards blocked the hangar entrance. Their weapons were raised, pointed at Day 1 and G1, but their hands shook. Even outnumbering the humans 25 to 1, they were afraid. Warden Kress stepped forward from the ranks. Its insectoid features were rigid with determination, but Day 1 could see the tremor in its limbs. Fear and duty warred within the warden. It ends here, Kreese said. You cannot fight 50 armed guards. Surrender now and you will not be harmed. Daewon looked at Jiwon. She nodded slightly. They did not need words to communicate. Years of working together had built that understanding. We do not want to fight, Daewon said calmly. We just want to leave. That is not possible, Kreese replied. You are prisoners of the council. You have committed crimes. What crimes? Jiwon asked. We were legally conducting research. You captured us without cause. You interrogated us without trial. If anyone has committed crimes, it is the council. Murmurs ran through the guards. Some of them lowered their weapons slightly. Jiwon's words had struck a nerve. The council prided itself on justice and law, but their actions had violated both. Kreese's mandibles clicked in agitation. The council authorized your detention. We had reason to believe humans posed a security threat. Based on what evidence? Daewon pressed. Fear is not evidence. Suspicion is not proof. More guards lowered their weapons. The formation was breaking. Doubt crept through their ranks like poison. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in immediately, but the hangar was plunged into dimness. The bright white illumination became a faint red glow. Shadows stretched across the floor. Jiwon had activated the device she had been building, a simple electromagnetic pulse localized to the hangar's main power grid. She had planned for this moment. In the darkness, Daewon and Jiwon moved, not to attack but to relocate. They split apart, using the confusion to slip between the guards. Human eyes adapted to low light better than most council species. The prey animals stumbled in the shadows while the predators moved with confidence. Find them, Kreese screamed. They cannot have gone far. But they had. Daewon was already at the control panel for the hangar doors. Jiwon was accessing a shuttle on the far side. The guards fired blindly, energy bolts streaking through the darkness and hitting nothing. Daewon's fingers worked the controls. The hangar doors began to open. Beyond them, space beckoned. Stars glittered against the void. Stop them, Kreese shouted. Guards rushed toward the control panel, but Daewon was already moving again. He rolled under a parked transport vehicle, emerged on the other side, and sprinted toward Jiwon's position. She had a shuttle powered up. The engines hummed to life, their sound cutting through the chaos. Daewon reached the boarding ramp just as guards closed in from all sides. Go, he shouted. I will hold them. No, Jiwon replied firmly. Together or not at all, she was right. Daewon leaped up the ramp. The guards fired, but their shots went wide. Fear made them inaccurate. Jiwon sealed the ramp and launched the shuttle in one smooth motion. The small craft lifted from the deck. Guards scattered as its engines washed over them. Kreese stood its ground, firing until the last moment, then dove aside as the shuttle accelerated toward the open hangar doors. Alarms blared. The hangar's defensive systems activated. Automated turrets swiveled, locking onto the shuttle. Energy barriers began forming across the exit. Jiwon pushed the engines to maximum. Hold on! The shuttle shot forward like a bullet. Energy bolts streaked past. One clipped the wing, sending the craft into a spin. Jiwon corrected with practiced skill, her hands steady on the controls. The energy barriers were almost complete. Another few seconds and they would be trapped. Daewon strapped himself in, watching the closing gap. They were not going to make it. Then the barriers flickered. The turrets went offline. The shuttle cleared the hangar doors with meters to spare, bursting into open space. Inside the hangar, Warden Kress stared at the control panel in confusion. Someone had overridden the defensive systems, someone with high-level access. Overseer Thalrin stood in the control room above the hangar. His fingers were still on the override button. He had let them go. A guard beside him stared in shock. Why? The guard asked. Thalrin's golden eyes were sad. Because they were right. We acted out of fear, not justice, and because I wanted to see what they would do next. In the shuttle, Daewon and Jiwon flew away from the Nexus station, but their relief was short-lived. The sensors showed multiple contacts approaching. Council patrol ships responding to the station's distress call. We have a problem, Jiwon said. Daewon studied the tactical display, 6 patrol ships forming an intercept pattern. The shuttle was fast but unarmed. They could not fight. They could only run. Can we outrun them? He asked. Jiwon shook her head. Not for long. This shuttle was not built for extended pursuit. They will catch us within the hour, Daewon thought rapidly. They needed an advantage, something the council would not expect. Then he remembered the asteroid field where he had first been captured. It was close, within their range. "There," he said, pointing at the navigation display. "We hide in the asteroids." "That is dangerous," Ji-Wan said. "The density is too high. We could hit something. Can the patrol ships follow us in there?" Ji-Wan smiled slowly. "Not without risking collision. Their ships are larger, less maneuverable." "Then that is where we go." They changed course, angling toward the asteroid field. The patrol ships followed, closing the distance. Energy blasts streaked past the shuttle. Ji-Wan wove between them, her piloting skills evident in every movement. The asteroids loomed ahead. Massive rocks tumbling through space, some the size of buildings, others the size of mountains. The shuttle plunged into the field. Immediately, proximity alarms screamed. Ji-Wan's hands flew across the controls. She dodged left, then right, then down. Asteroids passed so close that Daewon could see the texture of their surfaces. The shuttle's hull scraped against a smaller rock, throwing sparks. Behind them, the patrol ship slowed. They tried to follow, but their larger size made navigation impossible. One ship clipped an asteroid and went spinning. Another had to reverse course to avoid a collision. "They cannot follow," Ji-Wan said with satisfaction. But they were not safe yet. The asteroid field extended for thousands of kilometers. Navigation was treacherous. One wrong move and they would be destroyed just as surely as if the Council had caught them. They flew deeper into the field. Daewon monitored the sensors while Ji-Wan piloted. The patrol ships maintained position at the field's edge, waiting for them to emerge. "We need a plan," Daewon said. "We cannot hide here forever." "The message you sent," Ji-Wan said. "How long until Earth responds?" "Hours at least. Maybe a full day. Can we last that long?" Daewon checked their supplies. "Limited food, limited water, limited fuel. If we are careful." They found a large asteroid with a hollow interior. Ji-Wan maneuvered the shuttle inside using the rock as cover. She powered down the engines to minimum, making them harder to detect. They sat in the darkness waiting. Time passed slowly. They took turns sleeping, keeping watch. The patrol ships remained at the edge of the field, patient. The Council had learned from their prey species ancestors. Sometimes the best strategy was to wait for your target to come to you. During his watch, Daewon thought about everything that had happened. The capture, the interrogation, the escape. Every step had taught the Council something about humans, but they were still learning the wrong lessons. They thought humans were just another species. Stronger, perhaps, more aggressive, but still predictable within the frameworks they understood. They did not yet grasp the fundamental difference. Humans did not just react to situations. They shaped them. They turned disadvantages into advantages. They made tools, plans, strategies from nothing. "What are you thinking?" Ji-Wan asked. She had woken and was watching him. "I am thinking the Council is about to learn another lesson," Daewon said. "When you corner a predator, it becomes more dangerous, not less." Ji-Wan nodded. "We need to do more than escape. We need to send a message." "What kind of message?" She smiled. It was not a friendly expression. The kind that makes them think twice before capturing humans again. They spent the next hours working on Ji-Wan's plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing. But if it worked, the Council would understand what they were dealing with. Ji-Wan accessed the shuttle's communication system. She had been studying Council encryption during her captivity. Now she used that knowledge to hack into the patrol ship's network. "I am in," she whispered. "I can access their systems. All of them? All 6 ships. Their security is good against external attacks, but they never expected someone to hack them from a stolen shuttle using their own access codes." Daewon smiled. "What can you do?" "Watch and learn." Ji-Wan's fingers danced across the controls. Code streamed across her screen. One by one, she infiltrated the patrol ship's systems. Not to cause damage, but to observe. To learn their formations, their communication protocols, their tactical planning. Then the sensors detected something new. A large signature approaching fast. Daewon's heart raced. Was it Council reinforcements? No, the signature was different. Human engine design, human hull configuration. Help had arrived. A human destroyer emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. It was massive compared to the Council. The destroyer Indomitable filled the viewport as it approached. Ji-Wan piloted the shuttle carefully out of the asteroid field, matching course with the larger vessel. Daewon watched the Council patrol ships on sensors. They had retreated to a safe distance but had not fled entirely. They were observing, reporting everything to their superiors. The shuttle docked smoothly. The airlock cycled open and Daewon stepped through first. Captain Hyunwoo waited on the other side. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered with gray starting to show at his temples. His face showed relief when he saw them. "You look terrible," Hyunwoo said. Daewon smiled. "You should see the other guys." They clasped arms briefly. Ji-won emerged behind Daewon and the captain nodded to her respectfully. "Good to see you both alive. When we got your message, we came at maximum speed." "What happened?" "The council captured us," Daewon said. "Accused us of espionage. Detained us without trial. We escaped." Hyunwoo's expression darkened. "They detained humans without cause. That is a serious diplomatic incident." "It gets worse," Ji-won said. "They studied us like animals. Treated us as threats simply because we are predators. Their entire council has never encountered a true predator species before. They do not know how to deal with us." The captain led them to the bridge. It was a functional space filled with tactical displays and crew stations. Officers looked up as they entered, relief visible on their faces. "Status?" Hyunwoo asked his first officer. 6 council patrol ships maintaining distance. The Nexus station has gone silent. No communication attempts from either source. They are waiting to see what we will do, Daewon said. Hyunwoo nodded. The question is, what should we do? We could leave. Take you home and file a formal complaint through diplomatic channels. But that could take months and the council might capture other humans in the meantime. Or we could send a message, Ji-won said quietly. Make them understand. What kind of message? Daewon looked at the tactical display. The Nexus station floated in the distance, its lights visible against the void. Thousands of council personnel lived there. Scientists, diplomats, workers. Not soldiers, not enemies. Just beings who had made a mistake born from fear. We need to talk to them, Daewon said. Face to face. Show them that humans can be reasonable, but also show them the consequences of treating us as prey. Hyunwoo considered this. You want to return to the station? With proper escort this time. And with you to negotiate. The council respects strength, but they also respect procedure. If we approach this correctly, we can turn a disaster into an opportunity. The captain studied Daewon for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. You have been planning this. Since the moment they captured me, Daewon admitted. Every action, every word was designed to teach them about humans. About what we are capable of. But also about what we choose to be. Hyunwoo turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the Nexus station. Priority 1 diplomatic frequency. The officer worked the controls. After a moment, a face appeared on the main screen. Overseer Thalrin, his golden eyes wide with surprise and something that might have been relief. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the human destroyer Indomitable, the captain said formally. I am here to retrieve our personnel and discuss the illegal detention of human citizens. Thalrin's scales rippled. Captain, I apologize for the actions taken against your people. It was a mistake born from misunderstanding and fear. A mistake that could have led to war, Hyunwoo said. If we were a less patient species. I understand, Thalrin said quietly. What are your terms? I want a meeting. You, me, Warden Kress, and representatives from the council leadership. On the station in 1 hour. Thalrin hesitated. You wish to return to the Nexus? We do, Hyunwoo confirmed. To talk, not to fight. But make no mistake, Overseer. If there is any sign of treachery, my ship is fully armed and ready. The Overseer nodded slowly. There will be no treachery. You have my word. 1 hour. The communication ended. Hyunwoo looked at Daewon. Are you sure about this? Walking back into the place you just escaped from? I am sure, Daewon said. This is not about revenge. It is about understanding. An hour later, a shuttle departed from the Indomitable. Hyunwoo, Daewon, and Ji-won were aboard, along with 6 Marines in full armor. A show of strength, but also a sign of seriousness. The Nexus station loomed before them. As they approached, Daewon noticed the differences. The patrol ships had withdrawn. The defensive systems were powered down. The station was showing submission not through weakness but through choice. They docked without incident. The airlock opened to reveal Overseer Thalrin and a delegation of council members. No guards, no weapons. Just diplomats waiting nervously. Thalrin stepped forward. Welcome back to the Nexus, Captain. I wish it were under better circumstances. So do I, Hyunwoo replied. But we work with what we have. They were led to a conference room. It was large and circular, with a table that could accommodate multiple species. Warden Kress was already there, along with several other council officials. They all stood when the humans entered, a sign of respect. Everyone took their seats. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Hyunwoo spoke. "Let me be clear about Earth's position," he said. "What happened here was unacceptable. You detained our citizens without evidence. You interrogated them without legal representation. You treated them as criminals based solely on fear." The council members shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a floating creature with tentacles, spoke. "We believed humans posed a security threat. Your expansion has been rapid. Your technology is advancing quickly. Your species exhibits aggression that concerns us." "Aggression?" Ji-won said sharply. "We have been peaceful in every interaction. We have followed your laws, respected your borders, engaged in fair trade. What aggression have we shown?" "You are predators," Kress said. "Your very nature is aggressive." "Being a predator does not mean being aggressive," Daewon said. "It means being capable of aggression. There is a difference. We choose when to hunt and when to cooperate. That choice is what makes us civilized." Thalarin leaned forward. "But you escaped from a maximum security facility. You evaded dozens of guards. You stole a shuttle. These actions show your dangerous capabilities. These actions show what happens when you corner a predator," Hyunwoo said. "You took away our people's freedom. You gave them no choice but to escape. And they did, using exactly the traits that frighten you. Intelligence, adaptability, persistence, but notice what they did not do." "What do you mean?" asked the floating creature. "They did not kill anyone," Hyunwoo said. Daewon could have. Ji-won could have. They had opportunity and justification. You imprisoned them illegally, but they chose restraint. They chose to escape without causing harm. That is the difference between a mindless predator and a human being. The room went quiet. The council members looked at each other, understanding dawning. "You are teaching us," Thalarin said slowly. "Everything that happened, from the capture to the escape to this meeting. It was all a lesson," Daewon nodded. "We could have responded with violence. Earth could have sent a battle fleet instead of one destroyer. But we chose a different path. We chose to show you what humans really are. Dangerous, yes. Capable, absolutely. But also reasonable, ethical, and peaceful when given the choice. But you wanted us to be afraid first," Kress said. "You wanted us to see the predator before showing us the person. Fear without understanding is dangerous," Ji-won said. "But understanding without respect is equally dangerous. You needed to see both sides. The capability and the restraint. Only then could we have a real conversation." Hyunwoo stood, walking to the window that overlooked the station. "The galaxy is changing. Humans are here and we are not going away. You can treat us as enemies, as threats to be contained. Or you can treat us as partners. The choice is yours," Thalarin stood as well. "What would partnership look like?" "Mutual respect," Hyunwoo said. "Recognition that humans are different but not dangerous unless provoked. Trade agreements. Cultural exchange. Shared defense against actual threats. And most importantly, no more illegal detentions based on fear." The council members conferred quietly among themselves. Daewon watched them, reading their body language. The fear was still there, but it was balanced now with understanding. They had learned the lesson. Finally, Thalarin turned back to the humans. "The council will agree to these terms. We will issue a formal apology for the detention. We will establish proper diplomatic channels. And we will work to educate our people about humans, to replace fear with knowledge." "That is a good start," Hyunwoo said. "But there needs to be more." "What more do you want?" asked the floating creature. "A monument," Daewon said. Everyone looked at him. "Here on this station. A reminder of what happened. Not to shame you, but to remember the lesson. That predators and prey can coexist if both sides choose understanding over fear." Thalarin's scales rippled, then settled. "That seems fitting. What form should this monument take?" Ji-won smiled. 2 statues. A human and a council member. Not fighting. Not fleeing. Just standing together, looking toward the future. The council members agreed. The meeting continued for hours, hammering out details. Treaties were drafted. Agreements were made. By the time it ended, the foundation for a new relationship had been built.